It's time for Overreaction Monday once again. Rich Eisen along with Chris Brockman. Hello, everybody, from the Rich Eisen Show, Rich Eisen Podcast Studios. Good to see you, Christopher.
Good to see you, my man.
Week 9, almost all in the books. We say hello to everybody, whether you're watching us on ESPN2 for a cut-down version, the full version. Maybe you're watching it on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show. If you're listening to us on our podcast, however you get your podcast, we greatly appreciate that. Just know this. I'm describing the word picture. We're two very handsome bald men talking football. You ready?
I'm so ready.
Hit it.
That was terrible.
That was crap. That was garbage. This place sucks.
Overreaction Monday.
All right,
Hey,
Christopher.
Rich, what's up, man? You good?
I am good. What do you have for me, sir?
Wow. I want to start with Sunday night because that was an awesome performance by Sam Darnold and the Seattle Seahawks. All the way. I think they're fantastic. I think they're the best team in the NFC, and they're going to be the 1 seed.
That is an overreaction, pal. I mean, shortly before we go on the air, the Philadelphia Eagles, who are 6-2 now, right? Just like the Seattle Seahawks, just like the Los Angeles Rams, went ahead and acquired Jalen Phillips from the Miami Dolphins to rush the passer.
I might have cursed a little bit in traffic this morning.
One of 3 deals that Howie Roseman's already made, and by the time anybody's consuming this segment right now on Overreaction Monday, he might have made already 3 more trades for SEC players or players from the Southeast
right.
in professional football, right? So
it seems like it.
I mean, I'm very high on what the Seattle Seahawks have done so far, right? And also, we can't sit here and say, listen, this team has to play in front of the 12s. They have to have home field advantage.
Exactly.
Because they've now won 10 in a row on the road.
They do not.
Okay.
They will win anywhere.
They travel, as do the 12s, by the way.
Yeah.
So I'm not sitting here and saying anything but way to go. Sam Darnold is maybe the greatest bargain, right? The greatest bargain of any of the, any of those who just recently signed. Aaron Rodgers is in that mix for sure.
Interesting.
But for somebody who's not making Trevor Lawrence type dollars, right? Justin Herbert type dollars.
In his own division, Brock Purdy.
And is killing it right now.
Yep.
He is terrific. Defensively, they're getting it done. Offensively, Jackson Smith-Njigba. I will mention this on the flagship show. This guy, sir, is 100% threatening a 2,000-yard receiving season. He currently has, let me get this number on the spot for you. He currently has right now 948 receiving yards through the team's first 8 games of a season.
Jeez.
And he's the youngest to do that under the age of 25 in NFL history. He surpassed Isaac Bruce, who had 938 through the first 8 games of the 95 season for the Rams when he was 22. That's what Jackson Smith-Njigba is doing. Torrey Horton, I know he cost you a guillotine league.
Well, hold on. I still can have a Marvin Harrison miracle.
Let's hope so for your sake.
Thank you.
Horton had a who last night, right? He had 2 touchdown passes. The running game is working. Defensively, they're crushing it. Sam Darnold, 21 of 24 for 330 pass yards and 4 passing touchdowns. It's the 4th game with 4 passing touchdowns since 2024. Only Lamar has more with 6. So, yes, they're doing great. They're playing well. They can win the conference, not just their division. But being the 1 seed, I'm going to pump the brakes on that. The fact that you added the 1 seed.
I did add that this morning. I wanted to take it a little higher.
No, I know. This is an Overreaction
and here's
Monday
why
segment.
I like them better than Philadelphia. No drama. You don't hear anything from anybody on that team. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Well, you don't hear anything from anybody that ever plays in the Pacific Northwest. How many people in baseball were surprised? Oh, the Mariners are this good when they showed up in the ALCS. You know, I mean, that's just the way
Cooper
it goes.
Kupp's not posting on Instagram. Use me and any of this mumbo jumbo.
I know that.
You know what I mean?
I understand that.
Vibes are at an all-time high.
First of all, great use of mumbo jumbo.
Thank you.
Secondly, this 100% is why it's a perfect spot for Sam Darnold, who went through the crucible of New York City when he first started,
Oh, did he
and then
ever?
everything else. Now just go to the Pacific Northwest, keep throwing your passes, keep throwing your touchdowns, keep finding number 11 and winning football games. I'm just not ready to remove the one of the ones to make them the 1 seed from Jackson Smith-Njigba's uniform. I'll just call this an overreaction and move on.
Okay. Let's go to the previous 1 seed in the AFC. The Indianapolis Colts. They might actually still be based on record, but we saw the true colors come out in Pittsburgh on Sunday. Daniel Jones and the Colts turned back into pumpkins.
No.
They're not going to win the AFC South.
Oh, stop it. The Jaguars came off their bye and had a nice overtime win in Las Vegas, okay, in which they couldn't cover Brock Bowers.
Who can?
They batted. I know that. They batted down a pass at the end to save the game because they had a wide open Raider in the end zone that would have lost the game. They also had a gajillion penalties again. The Houston Texans can't score points. The Texans had a very nice defensive performance against the Denver Broncos, but the Texans right now, having allowed 15.1 points per game, now have a 3-5 record. That is the worst record by far of any Texans team that has had a defense just like this. The 2012 team had a defense through the first 8 games that gave up 17.1 points per game. They were 7-1. This team is 3-5. And the Indianapolis Colts are still 7-2. And the Steelers came up with a terrific football game from their defense. And Rodgers is not turning the ball over,
right,
which is what you'd expect from somebody at age 41, right?
He's game managing to the highest degree right now.
Correct. And they were more physical than the Colts.
Big
and the
time.
Colts have been road grading people.
Yep.
Okay. And so I would just say at this point in time, bury the tape and move on to Berlin, which is obviously their only option because they're going to play the Falcons next, and get back on the winning ways before a bye. And they're 8-2. They're absolutely going to win this division unless the Houston Texans can suddenly score a bunch of points and the Jacksonville Jaguars can stop shooting themselves in the foot, and they don't even have Trevor Lawrence's best target because Brian Thomas is absolutely destroying your fantasy team. And I know that that's a terrible thing to say because players don't like hearing that sort of thing.
I get it, but he is.
But he is definitely not the top elite receiver in the top 5 in the AFC like he was last year.
No, look, the reason why I say this, you look at Jacksonville's schedule coming up, it's all breaking very nicely for them.
It could, too.
And
Yeah,
whereas
sure.
the opposite is true for Indianapolis. You know, they were kind of the who have they beaten to start the year, and they buried teams. And now you look at the back half, it's going to get a little bit more difficult for Indianapolis. And I think the Steelers kind of provided a blueprint here. And whereas Jacksonville is going to have it kind of break their way, and I think they're going to get to 11 wins, Jacksonville, and they could steal this division.
I will just say this, okay? In the same way that I've been pointing out that the Ravens can still win their division, even though they're 3-5, and they're now officially 2 games behind the Steelers. What a massive
Huge
win
win
that was for the
Pittsburgh.
Steelers.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Massive win for the Steelers because they're staying 2 in front of the Ravens as
Right.
opposed to just being 1 behind them, having lost in the conference again, and then having not only lost in conference again, but losing to the team that is now stampeding their way to the 1 seed. They now have a tiebreak over Indianapolis. Should your prophecy about the division come true, that the Colts don't win it, they're now in a wild card position,
Yep.
and thus, or the Steelers, if they win their division, would be able to have a home game against the Colts again, feeling really good about the last time the Colts came in there. That said, the same way that I'm saying the Ravens have a chance to win their division because they have yet to play both Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, the Indianapolis Colts have in your point of view, can lose the division because they have yet to play Houston and Jacksonville.
Right.
And part of that gauntlet to end the division schedule also includes non-division opponents in Kansas City for Indianapolis again, Seattle, San Francisco. So
Killer schedule.
It's into the teeth of the NFC West and the AFC South. They have work left to do. I think they win in Berlin. They're 8-2 going into the bye, coming back, feeling healthy and feeling good about themselves in Kansas City. So I don't think they've turned back into a pumpkin. They ran into a buzzsaw, which happens in the National Football League. And it's also not a blowout loss. I know they got some window dressing at the end. There are only 2 losses of the season, same score, 27-20 to the Rams in Los Angeles, and now to Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. We'll see what happens in Berlin. I'll just call this an overreaction.
Okay.
I still think they're the best team in the AFC South for sure.
Let's go to Lambeau. One of the most shocking results of Sunday. Packers were big double-digit favorites, lose at home to Carolina. Packers were my Super Bowl team. I'm done with them. Packers are frauds as serious NFC contenders.
That's not true.
You can't sit there and say that's not true.
I'm not going to call them a fraud, and they're not serious NFC contenders.
What did they shown you recently where you're like, wow, this team can do it. This team can beat the Eagles, the Rams, the Seahawks.
Well, in our previous segment, Christopher, I just talked about how impressive the Pittsburgh Steelers were at home, how impressive they were on defense, how impressive they were on offense, how they went and out-physicaled a Colts team that has been road grading the rest of the competition. And the Packers laid an egg in Lambeau. Absolutely. They laid an egg in Lambeau coming off of their best win of the year, where Jordan Love had maybe the best game as a pro against the same Steelers defense that clearly heard from Mike Tomlin and the staff in film sessions throughout the week to say, this is not happening again. And so what happened was shocking, not going to lie, although I did say the Panthers were my sleeper team of the NFC, which I wasn't bringing up until they're 5-4 at this point of the season for the first time since 2019.
Too, by the way.
2019. Oh, sure. The Panthers are in the mix.
Yeah, they're in the mix.
I mean, they're in the mix for an NFC wildcard spot.
Sniffing.
The problem for them is the NFC West is so damn deep that you're thinking 2 teams is going to make it
at least
from there outside of the division winner.
Sure.
So 3 is going to come from the West, but, they're just 1.5 behind the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming off their bye, and Bucs are probably going to get Bucky Irving back, and we're going to see how they're going to look.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is about the Packers being frauds. They are not frauds.
That Steeler game is now looking like an outlier based on how they've played pretty much since week 1.
They also I guess they right. And to your point, their Packers, I have to say this like it's a hockey team because they have a tie. All non-victories for Green Bay this year, okay, have come against teams at 500 or worse coming in. They've lost to 0-2 Cleveland. They tied 1-2 Dallas, and now they lost to 4-4 Carolina. So they have the disease of playing down to their competition. With all due respect to Carolina being 5-4.
They almost lost to Arizona.
No, the almost losses I don't care about. I don't care about the almost losses.
I care how you look in those games.
You're 5-2-1 through the first 8 games. You're signing for it. You're signing for it before week 1. You're absolutely signing for 5-2-1.
You watch the film. You watch how Jordan Love looks. I don't know, man.
This reeks of overreaction in the fact that how many times in the history of this show and segment, which we've done for years, have one thing sounded good to you one week, and then the next week, poof, because the Eagles and the Packers play each other in the Week 10 Monday nighter to finish the weekend.
That's lining up perfectly.
This is where the rubber will meet road and proof will be in the pudding, and we'll see if the aforementioned mumbo jumbo of the Eagles is still in effect, and we'll see if the Packers can still get it done, because the bottom line is there's some outliers here. Jordan Love, one of the worst performances of his career. Micah Parsons, first time in his career, he had 0 quarterback pressures. Ooh. That's never happened before. Tucker Kraft, though, this is the concern I have.
That's huge.
It looks like he's got a serious knee injury, so that's a problem.
He's their number 1 target.
But Josh Jacobs is still putting the ball in the end zone, and he's still running 17 carries for 87 yards. There's still, LaFleur is still not bell cowing him. He still hasn't had one of those 30-carry games. We're entering that part of the season. We'll see if he is healthy enough to do it.
He's their best offensive player now that Kraft is out.
Brother, I'm just going to say they are not frauds. They are serious NFC contenders. And the fact that they're a half game behind all the 6-2 teams in first, in front of them in the standings, just 100% is a reason why this is an overreaction. What else you got over there?
Next two topics are going to be about the same game that was played in Detroit. Let's talk about your guy, man. He's back. JJ McCarthy.
Yeah.
He's going to take the Vikings to the playoffs.
This was a big week for the Vikings and the Bears, by the way, because both the Packers and the Lions lost due to the Minnesota Vikings, snapping their 4-game losing streak in Detroit. It's the first time they won in Detroit since 2020. And I'm going to cape for JJ McCarthy, that he looked terrific. And I just love the fact that a fellow Michigan man was in the booth in Tom Brady, just talking about the big throws that he made. Because once again, the knock on JJ McCarthy ever since he lost only one game as a college football player, and now remaining undefeated in the state of Michigan, is that he doesn't have to throw a lot, okay? And he didn't have to throw a lot again on Sunday, but what he did throw when he threw it were outstanding passes that were highly accurate and needed to be most of the time where they needed to be, which is something that Caleb Williams is still working on in his craft in Chicago. So McCarthy also might be showing a knack for what you want in your quarterback, which is not making mistakes, winning in tough spots, most importantly, in division. He now joins two other quarterbacks in the Super Bowl era to have 2 division road wins in his first 3 career starts. The others are named Patrick Mahomes and Dan Marino.
Hey, heard of him.
JJ McCarthy, as Jack Walsh, who's no longer popular in the Chicago Police Department, once said, a pretty respectable neighborhood. And so the reason why this may be true as well, if Aaron Jones can stay healthy and provide the scrimmage yards along with Jordan Mason, that's another balance that you want to have.
Yeah, need the run game.
But defensively, man.
Oh, that was Brian Flores' masterpiece.
It was indeed, sir. So if they can start doing what we saw from the defense on top of it, because that's a major reason why they won, because it made J.J. McCarthy's throws and performance stand up. The Vikings, a season-high 5 defensive sacks and 11 quarterback hits in the Week 9 win in Detroit. And then on top of it, when Detroit swept Minnesota last year, which, as you know, they did, right?
Yeah, and they only had 4 losses, right?
Correct. Including the playoffs, just 3 in the regular season, 2 at the hands of Detroit. So in those 2 losses last year to Detroit, Jahmyr Gibbs had 160 scrimmage yards and multiple touchdowns in each of the Lions' wins over the Vikings. On Sunday, Gibbs had 9 carries, 25 rush yards, 3 catches, 3 receiving yards. First game in over the last 2 seasons in which he had fewer than 50 scrimmage yards. That's the formula where this is not an overreaction. 4-4, though, they have some work to do.
They have some work to do.
But I just gave why it's it's not an overreaction, but I'm still going to just sit here and say at present it is, because that's just another one game. As you know, the last time he won on division on the road, he went home, J.J. McCarthy, and had a very difficult day in which he wound up injured. So I'll just call this an overreaction for the moment.
Let's go to the other side of this game, the Lions. I'm concerned, man. The Lions are not going to win the NFC North.
Oh, boy. They're a half game behind a team that's already beaten them. That's a problem. The Bears are now 5-3, just like them.
Coming on a little bit.
The Vikings, who just beat them, are last place at 4-4. It's a very tough division. And Detroit's next games, man, they have a brutal schedule, just like everybody in the NFC North have this year, because they're taking on the AFC North. They're next up at Washington. That should be a win against Marcus Mariota. The big one's at Philadelphia on a Sunday night. The Giants coming in. Jackson Dart is really special. He's doing things that the Giants have not seen at quarterback ever.
He's got some juice,
by the way, in terms of rushing touchdowns and throwing touchdowns in the same game.
He's your rookie of the year.
He's done it in every game but one since being named the starter.
Yep.
That said, they should win that. And then this is where the rubber meets the road, man. Thanksgiving triple header, the John Madden, as you know, Thanksgiving special. And it starts with Green Bay and Detroit. in Ford Field. So they have to visit the Rams. They do have the Steelers at home, and then they finish up on the road against two division opponents trying to return the favor of Minnesota. And then Chicago, which we know they destroyed the first time they saw them. Mm-hmm. So I will just say right now, I still believe the Lions, when healthy, have the best team in the division. And I also chose them to go to the Super Bowl and win the NFC. I don't think they would do that as a wild card, so how dare you put me in this position? I'm just going to say the Lions will still win the NFC North.
Okay.
I'll still say they win the NFC North, which is interesting that to square the circle, I said that the Packers are still Super Bowl and NFC contenders, and they are. And they are.
But they're going to have to do it from the wild card if
I'm right.
Right.
Correct. Which means Detroit wins on Thanksgiving against Green Bay. And I think Detroit wins against Washington. They're 6-3 while the Packers take on the Eagles, man.
Yeah. Do you think this division...
Minnesota, by the way, takes on the Ravens next. And then the Chicago Bears, after doing what they did in Cincinnati, come home and take on the Giants before they visit Minnesota and have Pittsburgh at home and then visit the Eagles the day after Thanksgiving.
If we play a quick what's more likely, a division to get 3 playoff teams, the NFC North or the West?
I'll take the West. Which leads me to believe somebody's really good in the North
it's
and
gonna be
not
left out.
Making it.
Yeah. Either Chicago or Minnesota.
Minnesota, because they're in a hole.
Right.
They started in that hole, because J.J. McCarthy got hurt and wasn't able to do what he did throughout the last 6 games that everybody said he couldn't do because he was on a soft injury sabbatical. How about my guy is basically what I'm saying. How about my guy, J.J. McCarthy? Oh, by the way, he won the championship for Michigan, in case you just
I'd heard that.
Don't know.
I've heard that before.
Very good.
I know we talked about the Colts earlier. Now I want to talk about the Steelers a little bit later on. I've been impressed. That defense really showed out, and Aaron Rodgers, he's managing the game in a way that you'd expect a guy with his experience to do so. They're here to stay, but they need to make a move on offense to be real AFC contenders.
You're talking about the trade deadline?
I am.
100%. You're not wrong. You're not wrong, which is kind of crazy because, I would love to know exactly, because, we always say here over and over again about there's an iceberg, and we in the public just see the tip of it, and there's always something massive underneath it that we just don't know about, which is why we're still wondering how Micah Parsons wound up on the Green Bay Packers.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, I would just love to know why the Steelers thought we just cannot have another minute of George Pickens being on our team.
I'm with you. I think about that every time I see George make a huge play for Dallas. You're like, God, this is just the guy that Pittsburgh needs.
Maybe the part of that was born out of he and DK Metcalf do similar things. And
but DK's not the field stretcher that he used to be.
And who did they think would be the complementary receiver in the offense to DK Metcalf with Pickens gone? If they thought there was too much of the same guy doing physically freaky things and running past people when they have the opportunity, like who's the other guy to be complementary in the offense to create the issue? Once DK Metcalf, you're just throwing all your resources defensively at stopping him. Why did George Pickens have to go? Because right now you're looking for more production at the receiver spot. All you have to do is look at what George Pickens has done for Dallas.
Exactly.
Okay, so I kind of don't get it. Certainly when the topic of conversation right now is they need more help at the position of receiver. And you could sit here and say the same thing about running back, but it's odd that we would say that after Jalen Warren had his first career game with 2 rushing touchdowns.
He's been really good.
And we just went higher register.
Gainwell, too.
And Rodgers, we're all talking about, hey, Big Ben's gone. What are you going to do? It was the last time Big Ben was around, and they're going to find a quarterback who can do things that Big Ben did for us. Rodgers' 17 passing touchdowns is most by a Pittsburgh quarterback in a single season since Big Ben's last career season of 22 touchdown passes. And he's just a machine. 157th career game with a passer rating of 95 or better that ties Drew Brees for most all-time behind, of course, Tom Brady. But so, yes, I fully agree with this. They need help at the offensive spot. If they can
I mean, they need Jalen Waddle.
Well, guess what?
That's a guy they need.
Do the Steelers have a history
Of
trading with the Miami Dolphins?
That's what I'm saying.
And trading high leverage draft picks to the Miami Dolphins?
Yeah. I'm wondering if those conversations are happening. Obviously, we're taping this.
You know the Dolphins
Monday
101. If you're the Steelers, you toss a 1?
You got to think.
Let me answer the question for you.
Yes.
Absolutely you do that. Absolutely you do it.
Yeah. But then they're doing. Then the Steelers are doing something they don't traditionally do. They gave up a big draft pick to get DK Metcalf. Now they're doing another one for another wide receiver.
Who the hell cares?
I get it, but the Steelers
is Rodgers going to be 30 tomorrow? You made this. Hey, brother, this is what happens when you go ahead and you put your eggs in a basket of someone like Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. When I say that, of just someone of that age. Right. Look what the Jets did. They put all the eggs in the basket. Obviously, his Achilles gives way, and then the whole thing blows to crap. 100%. You bring in Jalen Waddle right now and see what he can do with Aaron Rodgers? Well, Rodgers is turning back the clock physically. Come on now. Hell yeah. You're leading a division. The Ravens are going like crazy right now, getting closer in your rear view mirror than they really appear. Than they really are. That's where they're appearing. Come on now. Yeah, that's what you do. What else? Not an overreaction.
Not an overreaction.
No, sir.
Okay. 3 more. Let's go to Buffalo.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about this game.
Surprised you didn't lead with it.
Well, this is why.
Okay.
Josh Allen now the favorite for MVP. He had a nice game. But it won't be impressive until the Bills beat the Chiefs in the postseason. This game means nothing to me.
Well, I'll just say this. Ultimately, you're right. But in order for them to beat them in the postseason, they had to do this. So I can't say that this win has empty calories because,
I've just seen this movie over and over again. Now
the
5
Bills
times.
The Bills won 5 in a row against them in the regular season.
It's ridiculous.
And the Chiefs have lost 4 times, and the Chiefs have beaten them 4 straight playoff games.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, in 3 of the last 5 seasons, the Bills have beaten the Chiefs in the regular season, then had their season ended by the Chiefs in the playoffs. So I understand where this is coming from, but the matchup between Mahomes and Allen, it was the 10th time they faced off against one another.
Yep.
So they've now hit double digits. With Allen now being an MVP, it's the first time they've met as both having MVPs in their trophy case, and they're now 7 behind the matchup, the most all-time between 2 MVP quarterbacks. 17 for Peyton and Brady, 17 for Unitas and Bart Starr.
Oh, okay.
So you want to talk about it's the last generation and then multiple generations ago. This is the version that our generation or our children are seeing.
It's great.
I
love it. I love this matchup.
Okay.
But
it's the first time, though, they faced each other where neither were in first place. So this had a crossroads type feeling for the teams that we haven't seen before. That's a
good nugget. I like that.
And the Chiefs, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
The Chiefs, I have that from NFL Game Day Morning. It's part of the package. At any rate, the Chiefs are now 5-4. It's the first time they've hit a bye in the Mahomes era where they aren't 3 games above 500 or better hitting their bye. They are now looking up at the Chargers and the Broncos. They play the Chargers once more. They play the Raiders once more. They play the Broncos twice. So the division is still in reach for Kansas City, but they are not, despite having they played well enough, they're still dealing with digging out of that 0-2 hole.
Right.
The loss in Jacksonville, the loss in Buffalo is something that when you're starting 0-2 adds up and now creates an issue when you're coming out of a bye. You're at Denver. You're in must-win territory if you want to continue winning your division for a 10th year in a row. And then
Tennessee's the only cupcake on this schedule after the bye.
You can't also say all the Kansas City playoff wins have come in Arrowhead, and what's going to happen when they go on the road. When they went on the road a couple years ago and made the Super Bowl and won it. Mm-hmm. So if, though, they do want to stay at home in Arrowhead and have everyone come to Arrowhead, they got to start winning some football games. And the Bills, on top of it, They're not in first place because your Patriots keep on winning football games. As a matter of fact,
got kind of lucky on Sunday.
That win in Buffalo on a Sunday night kicked off a 6-game win streak for the New England Patriots. So the Bills had to win this game.
Yeah, they
and
needed
it's not
to keep
just
pace.
They also blitzed Mahomes. They also pressured Mahomes. He was pressured on 52.6% of his dropbacks, which is the 4th game in his career when that's ever happened. The only 3 such games came in 2018 through 2020 when the whole idea was get Mahomes off the spot
right.
and you're going to win a football game.
Man, they've never been sniffing it in the history of our show,
well,
right?
What I'm saying is for the Bills, probably not. No, correct. So this late in the season, they're not in first place, right? So when we start putting the playoff picture up, for a defense that was becoming maligned quite a bit, for the Bills to do what they did against Mahomes.
Yeah, Mahomes is kind of running for his life on Sunday.
100% a momentum and confidence builder that I think the Bills needed. That Bishop was all over the field in the back end, all right? And there's no Ed Oliver. What are you going to do? How are you going to stop the run? How are you going to get Mahomes? Check the box. And what they're also doing is, thank goodness for you Bills fans, man, that they get the idea that James Cook needed to be paid, and they're gonna run him.
Man, he is awesome.
Okay, he had 27 carries. 27. So it's not like, where the hell's James Cook? Why are they not going to him?
Second half, that was kind of a thing.
114 rush yards, 27 carries, man. First running back with 100 or more rush yards in a game against Kansas City since Zamir White did it on Christmas Day for the Raiders in that upset in 2023 in Arrowhead. Remember that one?
Yep.
And, Cook, the only person that's keeping Cook from being atop the rush yards list for the Bills through 8 games of a season is OJ, who had 1,100 yards through 8 games of a season for the Bills twice in 73 and 75. He won the MVP in 73. So for a team that needed it to stay in the mix for their division, the conference, this means a lot. Okay, this is not your usual Allen and Mahomes are 100% going to be in the AFC Championship game, so this means nothing. This meant something because this game was unlike the previous Allen and Mahomes regular season games. I'll call this an overreaction.
Yep, do it in January.
Okay. No, I hear you.
Yeah, I get it.
What else?
Speaking of a guy who has done it in January and February, Matthew Stafford, Rich, I just can't talk enough about him. He is absolutely balling, and he's going to be an MVP finalist.
Oh, I agree with you. What did I say to you in what was it, two versions of the show ago? That this was the season where he was going to gain everybody's assent as a Pro Football Hall of Famer? That everybody is going to look at him and go, that's a Hall of Famer.
Man, if he adds an MVP...
Well,
to that resume.
I mean, right now he just he threw 4 touchdown passes to follow up after a bye. The 5 touchdown game I called in London against the Jaguars. That's the most in a 2-game stretch in the history of the Rams organization. And a pass rating of 140 or better again for him. His 4th game with 3 touchdown passes in 2025. He only had 2 last year. 4th game with 3 touchdown passes and no interceptions this year. He had only 3 such games in the 3 years combined. He's finding Puka when Puka's healthy. When he's not, he's throwing touchdowns to Devontae Adams. The run game is working. It is all clicking. 21 touchdown passes in 8 games this year. It's the 2nd most through 8 games of a season in his career. 3rd most by a Rams player through the first 8 games of a season in franchise history. Bettered only by Kurt Warner at the top with 24 in his magic carpet season of 99. And then the 2nd place quarterback on that list is his own self in 2021 when he went to the Super Bowl and won it just like Kurt Warner. And Kurt won the MVP in 99. Not an overreaction. What else you got over there?
Last one. Let's finish up. Circle back to KC and let's talk.
By the way, that was an easy one. That was a layup. That was an easy one.
I don't know if you'd buy the MVP finalist.
Absolutely, brother.
if you look at the odds right now, it's Allen is now leading the way with Drake May second, Mahomes third, and Stafford fourth. And then there's a giant drop off.
Where's Jonathan Taylor, man? I know what happened yesterday, but running backs can't do it every game.
Well, McCaffrey now should be kind of near the top of that.
McCaffrey, and we're going to spend a segment later on this week that he's making a case for the Hall of Fame right now.
I almost had that as a topic today.
I would have said it's not an overreaction.
I thought about it.
Well, that'll be for future shows.
Okay.
What else you got to finish this
Last
one
off? Either the Chiefs or Ravens are going to miss the playoffs.
I don't think that's an overreaction right now.
That win by Pittsburgh was pretty massive.
It was
a blow to Baltimore.
The Ravens are going to have to play almost perfect football. 1-5 holes, no joke. When I just said that the Chiefs are still dealing with the 0-2 hole.
Yeah.
When you lose a Monday nighter in Jacksonville, and then you lose a late window Sunday game in Week 9 to Buffalo, that will cost you because it's just stacking losses. Well, the Ravens are 1-5 digging out of the hole. They've successfully gotten halfway back to 500. They're 3-5. But the Minnesota team that just made Jared Goff's life a misery in his house is going to be in their house welcoming the Ravens next week. So, let's see if McCarthy can do it at home. But the Ravens are currently 10th in the standings, and the Chiefs are 8th in the AFC standings right now, so I can't sit here and say you're crazy to say one of them's going to miss it.
I said it last week that the NFC playoffs were locked. Do you think the AFC is locked right now, if you want to put that back up there?
The AFC where no, I can't. Because I'm not going to sit here and say the Chiefs are missing it.
Colts, Pats, Broncos, Steelers, Bills, Chargers,
Jaguars
Jags.
are just making way too many mistakes.
Yeah.
They are overcoming their own penalty mistakes, their own inefficiencies that are going to eventually cost them. You can't just keep doing that. Unfortunately, the Raiders are ill-equipped to overcome their own. You could say that the Jaguars won a game of overcoming their own mistakes against another team similarly built. I think Colts, Patriots, Broncos make it. I think the Chargers make it. And I think the Bills make it, and I think it's a question about whether the Steelers or the Jaguars do at 5-3. How does that sound for my answer to that question?
That's fine.
Where the Chiefs and Ravens can both make it, and those are the two teams that they knock out of the current spots in the AFC. The NFC, though, I think is locked.
Yeah.
All right, Christopher, thanks very much. Greatly appreciate
Great
that.
Stuff, buddy.
Good stuff,
week
as
9.
always. Yeah, a week number 9, and we'll talk about it all on our flagship show on Monday. Catch all of that on Disney+, the ESPN app, obviously ESPN Radio, and SiriusXM Channel 80 is how you can follow us every day from 12 to 3 Eastern Time. Check out Overreaction Monday every single week. We greatly appreciate that. And other Rich Eisen Show podcasts, No Contest Wrestling with O'Shea Jackson Jr. and TJ Jefferson, the Jim Jackson Show, for those who want a basketball fix. And later on this week on the Rich Eisen Show, we've got Woody Harrelson is on our guest list, among many. We'll see you then. For Chris, I'm Rich. Peace out. Hey, you made it all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Check us out every single day streaming live on Disney Plus and the ESPN app 12 to 3 Eastern.